In 1958, a young woman named Naledi Tshabalala slipped into our law office in Johannesburg, her eyes darting like a deer sensing a hunter. The air in our cramped room was thick with the scent of dust and worn paper, the city's restless pulse seeping through the thin walls like a song of defiance. Naledi, barely 20, was a seamstress from Orlando Township, but she carried a secret heavier than the bolts of fabric she stitched. She had been caught distributing ANC pamphlets bold, inked cries for freedom that called for resistance against apartheid's iron grip. Charged with incitement under the Suppression of Communism Act, she faced a prison sentence that could steal her youth and silence her voice. Her story was a spark in the tinder of our struggle, a tale of courage that lit my heart ablaze. I vowed to fight for her, not just to save her from chains, but to amplify the message she dared to spread. Orlando Township was a cauldron of life and resistance, its dusty streets alive with the chatter of vendors, the laughter of children, and the quiet hum of defiance. But apartheid's laws choked its people passbooks, curfews, and poverty were daily shackles. Naledi was no ordinary seamstress. Her nimble fingers stitched not just dresses but hope, her heart woven into the ANC cause. She had joined the Youth League, her spirit stirred by our Defiance campaign, and took to the streets at night, slipping pamphlets under doors and into hands. These were no mere scraps of paper, they were firebrands, calling for boycotts, rallies, and an end to the laws that crushed black lives. Freedom in our lifetime, they declared, their words a beacon in the darkness, but the regime's eyes were everywhere. One moonless night, as Naledi darted through an alley, a police van roared to life. Officers seized her, tearing the pamphlets from her bag, their boots kicking up dust as they cuffed her wrists. "You think you can stir trouble, girl," one sneered, but Naledi's gaze held steady, her courage a quiet storm. The charge of incitement was a twisted blade, part of the Suppression of Communism Act, a law that branded any call for justice as treason. Her mother, a washerwoman, and her younger brother, who dreamed of being a doctor, faced a future without her if she was convicted. "I did it for them," she told me, her voice soft but fierce, "for all of us who deserve to be free." Her words were a call to arms, a reminder of why we fought. Oliver Tambo and I took Naledi's case with a hunger that burned through the long nights. The Suppression of Communism Act was a monstrous tool, vague enough to snare anyone who dared speak out, but we saw a chance to expose its cruelty. In our office, lit by a flickering lamp, we worked to the rhythm of our typewriter's clatter, crafting a defense as bold as Naledi's actions. We gathered testimonies from her community neighbors who called her a light, comrades who saw her pamphlets spark courage, a pastor who praised her faith in justice. We argued that her actions were no crime, but a cry for equality, a right no law could justly deny. Her pamphlets, we said, were not incitement but truth, a mirror to apartheid's shame. The preparation was a battle of its own. We pored over the Act's murky clauses, searching for cracks, and studied police reports, noting their lies about violent unrest. I thought of our ANC rallies, the songs that lifted our spirits, and saw Naledi's pamphlets as their echo call to rise, to resist, to dream. Every affidavit we collected, every argument we honed, was a thread in the tapestry of our fight. I felt the weight of Naledi's trust, her steady gaze, her trembling hands, and it fueled me through the sleepless hours. The trial day broke with a heat that pressed down on Johannesburg, but the courthouse stood cold, a fortress of white power steeped in arrogance. Inside, the air was heavy with the scent of polished wood and the weight of judgment. The gallery was a sea of faces, Orlando residents, ANC Youth League members, and young women who saw their own fire in Naledi. The prosecutor, a man with a voice sharp as a blade, painted her as a dangerous agitator, waving her pamphlets like evidence of treason. "This girl seeks to sow chaos," he sneered, as if her call for freedom threatened the very earth. His words were venom, meant to poison her courage. When I rose to speak, my heart thundered like a drum, but my voice was a steady flame. I held up one of Naledi's pamphlets, its ink smudged but bold, and read its words aloud, "Freedom in our lifetime." "This is no crime," I declared, my voice echoing off the cold walls. "This is a dream, a demand for a world where every child can walk free." I told of Naledi's life, her days stitching clothes to feed her family, her nights risking everything to spread hope. I spoke of her brother, whose dreams of medicine depended on her wages, of her community, lifted by her courage. I challenged the Suppression of Communism Act, calling it a lie that branded justice as treason. To punish Naledi Tshabalala, I concluded, is to punish a young woman for daring to dream of freedom. Let us judge the system that fears her voice. The gallery roared, a wave of defiance, and I saw tears and pride in Naledi's eyes. The judge, a stern figure with eyes like flint, sat unmoved. His verdict was a blow, guilty. Naledi was sentenced to 6 months in prison, her pamphlets banned, her voice ordered silenced. The gallery erupted in a low cry, a mix of sorrow and anger, but Naledi stood tall, her gaze unyielding. As the guards led her away, she turned to me and whispered, "Keep spreading the word, Madiba. They can't stop us all." Her words were a torch, and the crowd answered with a freedom song, its notes shaking the courtroom's walls. The loss cut deep, but it was not the end. Naledi's case became a wildfire, her pamphlets a symbol of defiance. In Orlando, Soweto, and beyond, young people took up her work, slipping new flyers under doors, their words echoing hers, "Freedom in our lifetime." The ANC spread her story through rallies and secret networks, her name a rallying cry that drew new fighters to our cause. International papers picked up the tale of a young woman jailed for words of hope, and the world began to see apartheid's fear of truth. Naledi's courage was a crack in the regime's armor, proof that a single voice could spark a movement. In the quiet of our office after the trial, the city's hum a faint pulse. I sat with Oliver, reflecting on what we had achieved. Naledi's fire, her whispered vow, her community's songsthy were our fuel. We had not saved her from prison, but we had helped her light a flame that would burn on. The struggle for freedom was a long road, but every pamphlet, every stand, brought us closer to the dawn. To you who hear this tale, let Naledi's courage stir your soul. Whatever chains bind you, whatever silence you are told to keep, raise your voice and spread your truth. Your words, like hers, are a spark that can ignite a revolution. Let them burn bright, and let them light the way to a world where all are free.